In the dark, there's a light that's calling everyone out. If you could see beyond the walls that you have built, I know it's hard to escape the past and start.
Hello everyone, happy Friday and welcome to the Stream of Consciousness. I am Dichotomous Prime, aka Vince, and this is the stream where we talk diversity, design, and discourse. As usual, I am a hot mess that has not enough time in the day for my combination of ADHD related recharge periods and the amount of shit I need to do. But regardless, we are here, we are queer, fuck bots and their pathetic little persistent bullshit, and we're not going anywhere. So, we're here to play some more Psychonauts. It's gonna be super fun, and yeah, if y'all weren't around on Monday, we went through a bunch of different levels, actually, now that I think about it. We had, Bowling Ford Crullers, New York, but with like germs in it as the people with like really thick New York accents. We had, of course, Compton's Cook-Off, which if you see my Twitter feed, you can see that we did a couple of design breakdowns on that. And as well, we did, and the one that we're in right now, I don't actually know what the name of it is, because we actually don't know the name of the person whose mind it is yet. There's a whole thing attached to it. We'll get into it when we start. But it's pretty wild. It's some of my favorite visual design that we've seen in this game so far. And it's pretty dope. It has to do with like sense memory, and we're literally going through each of the 5 senses to kind of talk about how they relate, and like we got a new time slowing mechanic, which is going to be pretty dope. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Which actually, one thing, Phoenix said, the whole perspective changing in the germ location was already so much eye candy to me. Yeah, just anytime you make me able to walk on a wall and the gravity change, I'm like, you son of a bitch, I'm in. And also, welcome on in, Phoenix Fam. And also, Rourke, thank you for coming in again, and I can see that subscription there, which, speaking of subscriptions, for those of you unaware, let me just drop a little exclamation point support here. We're in the process of currently trying to divest from Twitch. You might notice that there is an absence of the little subscribe button down below the video, and that is because I have rescinded my affiliateship. Regardless of, we have the news that came out from Twitch today, but frankly, their mishandling of this situation is such that a lot of us aren't super keen on putting all our eggs in one basket until it happens again. As such, I have set up a Ko-fi where, if you'd like, you can move your patronage over there. It's actually cheaper than a Twitch subscription monthly. I get a larger cut of it, and I'm going to be putting out some more longer form, like, written content over there, as well as some other extra perks for people if you happen to have the scratch to contribute at some of the higher tiers. So, that is where I'm kind of funneling people going forward. But regardless of where you contribute or whether you're just hanging out today and you decided to spend your evening with us, you are very much appreciated, and I enjoy you being here. As a heads up, so I don't get scorned by chat, I'm gonna get out ahead of this. I do have, like, not the classical version of hydration, though I also have that, but today is the kind of hectic day that I need, like, continuous supplementation of, like, caffeine. So we will be double dipping today, but don't worry, there's an abundance of water that will also be going through, so everyone, I hope, is also keeping themselves hydrated using the beverage or method of choice. I wonder how you would hydrate if you weren't using a beverage. Watermelon? Possibly? Some kind of melon or high water content fruit, I suppose? Anyways, however you're doing it, I hope you're staying hydrated. And as well, I hope that if you have meds that need taking, you're taking them, that you've gotten yourself a good big stretch today. I did but mangoes, see, I have not forgotten that mangoes exist. However, they tend to be the more dense fleshed fruit, in my opinion, as opposed to watermelon, which has like melon in it, water in it, the relevant portion of the word. And also, I tend to mostly eat mangoes in dried form, so that's probably where my mind went in that estimation. But yeah, no, it's... I was gonna say, under the stretching thing, I have become the type of person that does, like, rotator cuff related, like, routines every couple of days, and like hip mobility related routines every couple of days. Not because I'm an elite athlete or anything, but because I'm in a chair so goddamn often and with my hand on a desk so goddamn often that I will like shrink up into a gremlin shape that is constantly in pain unless I do them. Only judges mildly in Mexican at you. Hey. Lots of different... You should have seen the responses I got from the dried mangoes post that I made on Twitter. And it was awesome because it was like almost person for person the exact people who I suggested, and I was just who I not suggested but expected, and just kind of like I gave a little internal Jeremiah Johnson nod of just kind of like, my people. Yes, I knew that if I built the dried mango like obelisk, you would come, and so they did. Oh, okay, first drink of the night. But yes, we have a bunch of different stuff on the docket. I like the clip that we are propelling through Psychonauts with. I'm gonna try and do a little bit more of the collectible stuff off stream. But yeah, no, we're making through our words. Words are supposed to go in a specific order. We're making our way through the story at a decent clip, and I'm excited to see where it goes next. Thus far, I really enjoy the handling of both the more esoteric elements as well as just the, you know, the more down-to-earth, actual, respectful discussion around things like mental illness and all that sort of stuff. So, that being said, let me drop a CWTW for all of you. In addition to the various different triggers and content warnings that are associated with that, I do want to give everyone a heads up that the section of the game that we are currently in does have a great deal of things like flashing lights and other sorts of things that may aggravate photosensitive disorders, and so I just wanted to give everyone a heads up at the start of the stream to please take care, practice self-care. If you need to step away until we get through that section of the game, entirely valid. As well, we that portion of the game we're in does deal with stuff like panic attacks. In fact, there's a really cool enemy that's just called a panic attack. It's super fast and overwhelming, but the new power that we have slows everything down. So it's like this really interesting video game incarnation of, like, you know, your thoughts are racing and you're like going into a panic attack, and this is like the video game mechanic equivalent of like slowing down and breathing and mindfulness and like grounding yourself using your five senses, which is what this level is all about that we're in right now. So all of that is very, very cool. All the same, always want to give people a heads up and the ability to have informed decisions going into the stream, because your health is paramount. Much as I enjoy everyone's company, I would much rather everyone be watching in comfort and having a lovely evening, whether or not, whether or not you happen to be watching the stream or not. So, let's open up Steam and see if I actually remember how to properly move things over from one monitor to the other. I swear, every week I learn a new skill, and then, like, in a couple of days, it immediately goes right out the brain. Let's see. Psychonauts. There you are. No, you are not. Okay, it's a small update. Cool. Alright. Vamping. Alright. It's only a 50 meg update, but it's an update, so we'll see. What do y'all want to talk about today? Because apparently I have 50 megs worth of time before we get into the gameplay. Let's see. I already had the extent of my thoughts on the Matrix Resurrections trailer. Basically, it seems like very surface level cyberpunk. I am looking forward to digging into the first JRPG that I have played, almost ever, because I've played through the first Fire Emblem that was on the DS. I've played through Pokemon, and yet I think that counts as a JRPG personally. And then, like, I played through a bit of Battle Chasers Night War, which is like JRPG inspired. But suffice it to say, Pleasantly Twisted's awesome, like, feature stream on Wednesday. You know, I should remember it because I freaking modded during that stream. Let's see. I should remember the day of it. On Wednesday, yes. She played Tales of Arise, and it looked pretty dope. And I need a good, like, single-player campaign game. Alright, so here's the thing. What's the last book, single or series you read, and why, and who would you recommend it to? Tales of Arise, that was the game. Yes, exactly. And also, welcome on in, Sinziak. Okay. Last book, single or series? Series, Trilogy, Broken Earth Trilogy. I'm late to the game on this one. NK, like, it's won all of the awards, and deservingly so. Fantasy series by NK Jemisin, and it's brilliant. Like, it is... When we talk about, we have like fantasy written by authors who are persons of color. This is the first that I have read that is so thoroughly anti-colonial, revolutionary, and also deals with the complexities of trauma that goes through generations. That is inflicted upon people through oppression, and not just like the trauma that is ongoing from like abuse and emotional abuse and things like that, but the way that you internalize it and you either learn to cope by assimilating into the dominating group or trying to. Also the way that like the dominating group will manipulate you into thinking that like, well, if you act enough like us, we'll set you free, but that's never how it is. But also the way in which we carry that trauma, and a lot of the time we pass down the trauma that we experience to the next generation. And a lot of the time we do it when we think that we're trying to make them strong so that they can survive this awful thing that we've been through, because that's how the world is, because it's been that way our entire lives. And it is one of the heaviest fantasy books that I have ever read, so warning about that entirely. Like, an infant dies like horrendously in the first 2 or 3 pages and is like a heavy motivation throughout the book. Like, it's intense, but it's never like exploitative. It's actually, the tragedy of it a lot of the time is from kind of the love, but a love from a traumatized person, in which you have the initial, not even narrator, but the main character of the book. And I have never read a book that so commits to a holistic and yet incredibly personal experience of colonial oppression, colonial trauma, but then also is brave enough and ambitious enough to envision not just one, but multiple futures in which the world can be different and should be different, and we have the power to make it different. Now, the nature of that difference can go like, one person might say, you know what, the only way the pain is going to stop is if I just blow up the world. And this is the first book that made me go like, they're making a lot of, it's that meme of just kind of like, when you're sitting there and the bad guy starts to make sense and you're like, and they just start making a lot of really good points. But then likewise, there's kind of that other path you can take to create something anew. And a lot of the same dynamics of the like, well, you see, moderate change, or what if we replace the bad king with the good king but keep the system the same? And it's like, nah, this is the most thoroughly anti-colonial and revolutionary fantasy novel series that I have ever read. The voice is uniquely like non-Western. Like, most of the book is told in second person, and it integrates a lot of ideas of identity and how you become a different person during different portions of your life, and how other people are, in a sense, a part of you as you go through those stages. So many brilliant things. Also, the magic system is fucking dope. It's like almost all like POC cast, trans representation, polyam representation on multiple occasions, like just queer and trans representation. I already said that, but it's all over the place. Most of the main characters are women. I can't say enough good things about the Broken Earth trilogy. It starts with the book The Fifth Season. That's the first in the trilogy. Couldn't recommend it harder. Please go out and read it. Your life will be better for it. I powered through each book is about 400, 500 pages, powered through it in under a month. I haven't done that in a really long time. It's that good. Been meaning to read those for a while. It will be worth your time, Rourke. And if you talk to Cora, she'll back me up on that, actually. Of course, for those of you who know them, thank Human Houseplant, Frankie Larson, on Twitter for recommending those books to me, because, very, very glad that I spent the scratch to get around to reading them. I think I'm actually going to have to restart Steam to actually get this to come up. Oh, no. Come on. Okay, what are we doing here, Psychonauts 2? I think we actually got through the entirety of, like, the opening Haikyuu playlist that I started off. Holy crap, we did. Well, we're gonna do it again. Because that's always feel-good music anyway, so... let's see. So, we're just gonna do that'n. And we're gonna see if that works. Talked to Cora about these books last week, actually. Recommended to whom? Anyone who is committed to the anti-colonial project, who is, works in the social justice space, who is an activist working against oppression on a systemic level, and wants to either feel seen from their particular experience with the trauma related to that, or want to have a further understanding of the complexities of it. Because there's a lot of layers there, and this is the first time that I've seen those addressed in a nuanced but not wishy-washy way. And it's hard for me to describe it without getting further into spoilers, but the balance that Jemisin strikes in this, she has an incredibly unique and distinct narrative voice, and I really don't think that this story could have been told by... like, it needed that particular voice in order to be told with the gravity and intimacy that the Broken Earth trilogy is told with. So people who work in the social justice space, people who are committed to the anti-oppression and anti-colonialism project, those who want to have a better idea of kind of the effects and the way that trauma kind of trickles down generationally, even when you think, like, okay, well, I think that I'm okay and I've gotten through this and I'm healthy and I am knowledgeable enough to teach my offspring or younger people about this, and how sometimes it trickles in to your world perspective in ways that you don't pick up on. And as well, it's a series of books that I would recommend to someone who is interested in stories, like the way that stories are told as a craft, because it will likely be very different than anything that you have read before. And, like, just in terms of the structure of the medium, the way that I want to say that it de-individuates individual people, but that makes it sound like it diminishes their individual identity. It doesn't. Rather, a better way to describe it would be to say that it is... the way in which Jemisin tells this story from a literary perspective, in terms of just structure and sentence and like perspective from a grammatical point of view, it has been the most impactful way that I have heard the "we are all one," or "we are all a part of each other's story," or "we are all a part of each other," in the most impactful way that I have experienced in reading a book. So, yeah, if you are someone who is curious about the craft of storytelling and wants to experience different ways that stories are told, that's another audience that I think will do well to read those books. Let's see here. Are we... why are there always so many different updates? Let's see here. Why are you... I feel like if I pop on another game, it's going to, like, halt patching. Apologies, everyone. I definitely didn't... Well, one, I thought that it was a small update, so I thought that it would be done in just a couple minutes. But also, I didn't know that there was an update today. So hopefully we'll get to it reasonably soon. Kind of on another note of the Broken Earth trilogy is that I also feel like at a time that we're going through an experience of activism in the Twitch space and in the gaming space in general, I feel like it was the right time for me to read that book, or that series of books, in the sense that there is a lot of feeling, and maybe this might be a point where I'm like kind of preaching to the choir here, but there's still a lot of feeling more broadly in the activism space that oppression is an opponent that you can punch. Like, there is a single target that, like, if you pull down the statue that says racism on it, then the thing ends. And that's not how it works. If only it were that easy. And the way in which the book talks about, like, well, one, yes, absolutely, tearing down the oppressors from the high tower, revolution, absolutely, gotta do that. But there's also an incredible amount of focus on, like, the self-reflection of the characters, and in particular, if a character is to be the main protagonist in this, her reflection and kind of coming to realize, like, oh wow, I'm really fucked up, and I didn't realize how fucked up I was until, like, I'm looking at those around me or those who I influence and going like, ah, shit, I see the version of myself that I was when I was younger, before I gained all of this experience and perspective from meeting new people and being a part of a community and all of this sort of stuff. And the person whom I'm seeing in that younger version of myself is not a healthy individual, even though if I throw myself back 10 years or whatever, I would have thought, like, no, I'm fine. I mean, I'm not happy, but what are you gonna do? The world is fucked up. This is the best way that I can think to survive it, so I'm stuck here. And that kind of, you know what I say, what I'm gonna use the metaphor of, like, the Hall of Mirrors. Like, if you go to a funhouse and you have, like, the infinitely regressing mirrors, you get that weird effect. It's the Hall of Mirrors effect of seeing the numerous facets of yourself reflected back at you, both in terms of those you influence and from the perspective of those regarding you from the outside, as well as through your own self-reflection, and kind of processing that, and the very long path of acknowledging your own trauma, beginning to understand where it comes from, how it has manifested, the ways in which you have tried to cope, and then the very long and also multifaceted journey to healing from that. I've never quite seen it so intimately and kind of accurately, feels like the wrong word because that journey is going to be different for each person. But it is simultaneously an incredibly far-reaching in terms of talking about systemic oppression, and an incredibly intimate story about the personal experience of trauma and healing from it and growing from it. Not growing from it, but like, you know, growing afterwards and being like a healthier version of yourself. So yes, there's that. And yeah, the magic system is basically like thermodynamics. Like, it starts off and like everything is very earth themed, and everything's like, it's called like they mostly deal with like stemming earthquakes and like controlling different kinds of minerals and like all of these sorts of different things. But it continues to expand their understanding outwards. And yeah, by the end of it's like, oh no, it's not just that, it's also this. Oh wait, it's not just that, it's also this. And it's a very interesting critique of educational systems, because like, you know, the highest school in the land where all of the best like orogenes go to get trained in their powers, like, actually has this very limited view of what this is. But because they're the most powerful and that's the way that they've done it for so long, that's just the way that it is. But it's only kind of by going outside of that and not assuming that, you know, oh, someone who doesn't know all of this stuff is just ignorant, that it rapidly begins to expand into possibilities that, wait, the world doesn't need to be like this. It can be better. And it's a very unique integration of the magic system in that way as well. Let's see how we're doing on this patching here. Okay, you say 100%, but I think you're lying to me. Can I... Why is it at 20 minutes now? Oh my goodness. No, that's 20 seconds. Yeah, I see you going down. Yeah. You fucking don't mess with me. Goddamn Steam. I came in late. What series am I talking about? I'm talking about the Broken Earth Trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. Also, welcome on in, Eldritch Crow. Good to see you. It's interesting trying to recommend something, because I am that person who, if you recommend it to me, I will probably, like... oh, I have the first book of that waiting for me. Absolutely, when you get a chance, please dive into it, because I think you will very much enjoy it. It is very heavy, so brace yourself. But it's interesting trying to recommend something, because I'm the type of person who, like, I almost want to wait for the person who recommended it to me to forget that they recommended it, because I want to experience something without thinking of like anyone outside of that. It's the same way, like, I like watching movies and shows for the first time by myself, which, if you know me from Discord, is powerfully ironic, because I love showing people stuff that I love for the first time and watching them react. But there's almost a feeling of like, I want to experience and like evaluate the piece of media that I'm watching as close to a vacuum as I can, almost, which is, you know, impossible because you have societal influences and your own biases and all that sort of stuff. But it's like, I just want to almost out of the social realm and just be like, no, I just want to like read this. So a result of that is kind of the fact that it will take me several months, if not years, after you recommend something to me for me to watch it or read it or whatever, unless there is just kind of like you get those very few situations where like someone gives you the elevator pitch and you're like, okay, well shit, that's all you had to say, and then you just immediately dive right into whatever it is. I won the first book at random. Interesting. How heavy is your vacuum? Of course, you should probably bring it over to the couch, then you could comfortably read close to it. That's an interesting contrast. Oh, between like how I show other people stuff and like how I experience things. Yeah, it's I only really began to process the nature of like that particular irony recently, but like yeah, no, it is it's weird. It's weird. But then also I am also weird. Don't tell me about all these updates. Don't burden me with all of this sort of stuff. Oh my goodness. But yeah, that's kind of my main one. I'm super excited because there's a new Max Gladstone book coming out pretty soon, and actually, is it even coming out soon? Fuck it, I don't know. All I know is that Max Gladstone is writing another book, and I am super excited for it, because the last one was about, like, space fantasy, like, cosmic lesbian space fantasy was basically the last book that he wrote, Empress of Forever. And, you know, it was gay as fuck, and there were also planet-sized freighters having, like, space battles and living ships and, like, all this wild Jack Kirby-esque shit, which is totally my jam. And then also he's the author of one of my other favorite series, The Craft Sequence, which, if you've known me for any length of time, I have probably recommended to you at least several times. But yeah, I'm super excited about that. What's another thing that I'm really excited about, or at least really interested in? I'm kind of vibing on the Netflix Castlevania right now, actually. I'm on the 4th season of what they have so far, which I believe it's I think it's 4 seasons right now. I don't know if they're doing a 5th. Curbing Your Enthusiasm. Oh, really, Eldritch Crow? Did you just make that up now? I could talk Castlevania all day. They're doing a spin-off. Interesting. Cause I was, if folks are in the Wine Cellar, Pleasantly Twisted's Discord, it was one of those ones that really, like, I was like, I really enjoy this show. But the person who writes it, Warren Ellis, is an awful predatory dick, and you can, like, look up the extent of that. I don't want to get too into it because trigger warning for, like, sexual predation on people, pretty awful. And, like, he's the first author that I ever really got into comics and was like, oh shit, this is what comics can be, because I read Transmetropolitan, which is basically, if I can sum up Transmetropolitan, it is cyberpunk Hunter S. Thompson, and it's incredibly political, it's funny as hell, it is pitch black humor, it is ultra violent, but it's excellent. And so this, the writing that they're getting into in Castlevania with respect to religion and politics and philosophy and all of those sorts of things, I'm like, this is so good. I'm loving the hell out of this. That, like, I want to talk about it and I want to nerd out about it. Also, the animation is some of the best that I have seen in recent years. Like, it is absolutely ridiculous. But then I'm also just like, shit, but, like, I don't know how much I want to talk about this thing written by this guy who has hurt a lot of people, you know? And so it's a weird dynamic, because, you know, you can't ultimately avoid, like, all problematic content, and you're gonna end up liking some of it. But the process of figuring out how to engage with that is, it's a whole big ball of spaghetti. The animation for the end of season 4 will kind of break your brain with respects to what animation could do. You know what? I believe you, because they're like, each of the big fights in that series has kind of elevated it to that degree. Like, I'm ruined for most series expression of like combat magic after seeing like what Sypha can do. Is just like, Sypha's fucking dope. Like, Sypha is amazing, and I'm like, okay, I can't take like, I shoot fire at him as like my default anymore, because I'm just kind of like, yeah, no, I'm sorry, but you gotta yeah, you gotta get out of here. Speaking of getting out of here, no, you're banned. Goodbye. Fuck off. Yeah. Let's see, I kind of have to look at it like he was one person out of a huge team, so I gotta watch to support their work as much as I can. That was the kind of thing that started bugging me, Eldritch Crow, was that like, when you see the intro, it's like, Castlevania, written by Warren Ellis, and it's like, there's like teams of dozens, if not hundreds of people on any animation team, honestly. And like, it's just this one dude's name on the front, right? And then you get just all of the credits at the end, right? And I would absolutely love for it to not be like that, basically. So yeah, hopefully that's another way that just the way that animation and that shows in general are kind of looked at, that I hope changes in a little while. Let's see here. Are we good to go yet? Steam is telling me like it has a green thing on it, but we're 56% of the way there. So who wants to give me 44% worth of a topic to talk about next? Hey there, Tim Z, welcome on in. Haven't seen you in a hot minute. I hope things are going well for you. We got, I don't know if you saw earlier, but we had, I had reason to bust out my old like combat sports nerdery today, because people are looking at the God of War Ragnarok Thor thing and being like, why is this Thor fat? I can't see his like pelvic V, like all this sort of stuff, and it's like, it's just ask Roy. That's exactly it. I straight up was like, that Thor is, the mocap for Thor is being done by Roy Nelson. If I do not see Thor throw an overhand right by the end of this game, just 2 out of 10, worst game ever. Cause like, that's Roy Nelson. That's straight up Roy Nelson. Give him a reskin that has a mullet. That's Roy Big Country Nelson. But like, even kind of more broadly, it's just kind of like, fighters don't look like bodybuilders. They just don't. Like, I want to absolutely body slam those people, and the people suddenly getting up in arms about mythological accuracy when they see one of the new characters is black. Yeah, that's an old chestnut that we've been beating on for a real long time. And it's just kind of like, you're just upset that like, well, see, the characters in video games are getting uppity again, and it's just kind of like, fuck off. Like, you simultaneously want video games to be respected as art, but you don't want them to evolve in any way. Go back and play with your fucking colored blocks. I have neither the time nor crayons to explain to you why that is not the case. Like, Vikings rated is yeah. My Nazi dog whistle isn't wide enough. Yeah, exactly. It's ridiculous. And it was, okay, so, because I didn't have, like, a particular forum to put this in, I was looking at, I'm probably going to mispronounce this name, but Angerboda is the name of the Mother of Monsters character that is, like, the black woman or black girl in the trailer. And initially I was like, all right, this is super cool. I don't know how I feel about like the one black character in this being the Mother of Monsters, but then I started thinking about God of War 2019 and how they were inverting all of these perspectives of just like, oh, well, the gods of Asgard were these heroic, awesome people and like defending the world from these Jotuns who were like evil and cruel and everything. And they're actually like, no, the Jotun were just kind of doing their thing, and Thor is just kind of this weirdly like obsessive, like I'm just gonna kill giants for sport kind of dude, and kind of a jackass. And the rest of the Norse were cruel, and they called the giants monsters to justify basically genocide. So I like the idea that it's just kind of like, yeah, Angerboda is considered the mother of monsters according to the Asgardians, not according necessarily to reality. That's a very specific narrative for like the mythology as we've come to understand it. So the idea that it's just kind of like, no, they're not monsters. The Asgardians told you that they were monsters, but the Asgardians are dicks, so why are you gonna like listen to them? But yeah, so I'm very interested because they have so strongly committed to like reflecting upon those particular tropes and narratives and inverting them, or at least showing them to be like, you know, not objective and factual, but history as written by one very particular faction that wanted you to look at things in a very specific way. Now, I'm curious whether or not Sony Santa Monica and Cory Barlog and his team have the range to fully engage with a topic like that. But I will say, I deeply, deeply enjoy God of War 2019. It's so, and I didn't even play it. I have straight up just watched Let's Plays of it, and like whether with commentary or without commentary, and it's still one of my favorite stories in a game. So they